To start our beautiful Savannah dress, we will begin with our bottom ruffle. Measure the length of your ruffle, mark, and cut. Since I'm using chiffon fabric, it's easier to tear it than cut. We don't need the selvage edge, so make sure to cut that off. Fold one side of the fabric equal to the width of the front and back patterns. This layout is for sizes XL and up, and you can see the different pattern layout options in the PDFs that go along with this video. Cut out your front and back pieces. Make sure to mark your pocket notches on the front. Cut out the facing and pockets. Here are all of our pattern pieces laid out. Let's prepare the dart on the pattern. Going from my notch to the center of the dart, I'm going to lengthen the line to the seam allowance. Then, I'll cut a little triangle of the notch so that I can mark the fabric underneath. Fold the dart at the center, and at a 1/4 inch from the point of the dart, I made a slit with my scissors. Then, from the point down to the slit, cut a tiny hole. Lay your pattern on your fabric and place a pin into your hole. Flip your fabric and place a pin in the same spot on the other side. Then, pull it apart and you have 2 pins at the dart points. Now it's easier to fold the dart at the center and pin. Just place the notches together and mark your dart. Do the same to the other dart. Start a little to the left of your slit and sew the dart following your marks. And at the end, you need to make 2 or 3 stitches right on the edge of your fabric so that the end won't be pointy. As you can see here, my seam doesn't end abruptly once it meets the edge of the fabric. There are a few stitches that are almost right on the edge. This makes the dart a bit curved so that it will repeat our bust curve. Place your dart on a tailor's ham and press the dart seam allowances down. Place the dart on the curve of your ham to give the dart the right form. To start our pockets, we must first reinforce the pocket opening with non-stretch interfacing. The width of the strip is 1 inch, and the length of the strip should be bigger than the notches at the pocket opening, about 1/2 inch at each side. Mark your control points for your pocket, which should be about 5 to 6 inches away from each other. Line up your pocket piece with the interfacing strip and the edge and pin. Turn to the wrong side where your interfacing is, and now we will draw our opening. Draw 7/8 of an inch up from our control points and connect these 2 lines. Sew along this line, making a backstitch at both sides. Draw a line 1/8 of an inch from our seam and cut. Make little diagonal slits at the corners. This will help us to turn out our pockets. the seam allowances to the pocket and do an understitch from one corner of the pocket to the other. You can leave it like this, or do as I will, a top stitch very close along the edge of the pocket opening. Now we will take the second piece of the pocket and align it with the edge and pin it in place. Sew around the edges of our pockets to sew them together. Turn the dress away and follow the curve. Serge the edge, press, and now we will reinforce the edges of the pocket. I will secure the seam at the sides of the opening. We have half an inch for a side seam allowance. We will start with the sleeve ruffles. Check that your ruffle has a mark at the center. Then gather it with your preferred method. I like to gather with my fingers, with my machine on the widest setting. Join the center of the sleeve ruffle with the shoulder seam and match up the ends. Pin in between, evenly distributing your gathers. If you need to gather some more, just pull on one thread. Sew and serge the edge. Sew the side seams, matching the ends of the ruffle seams with each other. Where the armpit is, make sure you sew in a curved line instead of a right angle. When you get to where your pocket is, make sure to sew very close to the opening so that when you open it up, your pocket opening will be right at the edge. Serge and press, making the seam allowances face the back side. Do the same to the other side seam. We need to prep our facing. Press fusible lightweight interfacing to your back and front facing pieces. Sew shoulder seam. Serge and press, making sure the seam allowances are facing towards the back. Serge the outer edge of the front and back facing. Sew together the facing at the shoulder level. You want to make sure that you place the seam where the facings are crossing each other at the edge. This way, when you open it up, the edges will be aligned. Now we need to check our shoulder seams to make sure they are the same. Pin them together and correct the shoulder seam and neckline if needed. Mark the center back and front with a quick snip and do the same on the facing. Place the facing right sides together with the neckline, matching the shoulder seams and control points. And sew with half an inch seam allowance. Make a slit at the V-neck point, making sure not to cut through the seam. This will help us to turn it out. Trim seam allowances, leaving 1/4 inch. Along the curved line of the neckline, in this dress it's only at the back, make a few snips. Now we need to do an understitch on the facing. This will prevent the facing from rolling outside of the garment. Turn to the right side of the garment, making sure the seam allowances are folded underneath the facing. Start 1/2 inch from the V-neck point and end 1/2 inch from that point. We will place the seam on the facing side of the neckline. Here is how it should look. Place your neckline on your tailor's ham or ironing board to give it the right curved shape. At the shoulder point, align the seam allowances of the shoulder and facing and baste them together by hand, catching only the seam allowances. We will finish the dress with our bottom ruffle, hem, and belt. Sew the side seam of the ruffle and serge. Mark the center front and back of your ruffle. Then gather. Fold the dress in half, matching the side seams, and mark center front and back at the bottom. Then, place the ruffle and the dress right sides together, matching the center front and back marks and the side seams. Pin in between, evenly distributing the gathers of your ruffle. And sew. Finish your edges and press. Hem your ruffles, both the sleeves and the bottom. Double fold 1/8 inch and sew. You may find it helpful to hold the fabric with one hand in front of the machine foot and with one behind to make a straight seam. This is especially helpful for thinner fabrics. Fold the belt in half and pin perpendicularly. This makes it easier to take the pins out while you're sewing. Start sewing from the middle of the belt to one side, then leaving an opening in the middle, sew from the center out to the other side. This way, you will never have a twisted belt. Turn your belt out and press. Hand stitch the opening closed. And we're done with our gorgeous Savannah dress.